Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, D.C., where we were going to lead off with a Joe Rogan story, and now that's like 10 minutes from now, this is Ballot.
That's right, but we're still putting Rogan in the episode title because we like drive-by downloads. Let's hit this. Man, the stories today are so crazy, even my ex-girlfriend Norma thinks they are crazy. And she would know. Oh, believe me, she would know. The stories are so crazy, even RFK said, "Man, did the news cycle have brainworms?" Let's start here. Former President Donald Trump has once again taken to Truth Social to float another wild conspiracy theory, this time accusing Vice President Kamala Harris of using AI to fabricate images of her rally crowd sizes. Yep, you heard that right. According to Trump, Harris supposedly AI'd a massive crowd of enthusiastic supporters cheering her on as she stepped out of Air Force Two in Michigan. Now, it's one thing to use an AI to help write some lame jokes for a podcast. I do it every day. It's another to AI a crowd. This all started with an image showing a large crowd welcoming Harris on the tarmac, which seemed to really get under Trump's skin. He claimed that there was nobody at the plane, and that the entire scene was a high-tech illusion. The Harris campaign didn't let this one slide. They were quick to dismiss the accusation. They also took the opportunity to throw some shade at Trump, noting that he hadn't campaigned in a swing state in over a week, calling him low energy, a jab straight out of Trump's own playbook. This latest conspiracy theory is just one of many attacks Trumpabla hurled at Harris over the weekend. He also accused her of copying his proposal to eliminate taxes on tips, calling her a copycat for announcing the same plan at her Las Vegas rally that Trump had rolled out back in June. Trump's complaints are becoming more frantic as Harris's campaign picks up steam, with record donations pouring in and rallies drawing huge crowds. In stark contrast, Trump's campaign has been noticeably quieter. He's only held one rally so far in August and doesn't plan to hit the road again until after the Democratic National Convention later this month. Meanwhile, Harris has been barnstorming across battleground states, keeping up a pace of campaigning that's making Trump look downright sluggish. Meanwhile, NPR shared. A team of NPR reporters and editors reviewed the transcript of his news conference and found at least 162 misstatements, exaggerations, and outright lies in 64 minutes. That's more than 2 a minute. It's a stunning number for anyone, and even more problematic for a person running to lead the free world. Now, if the number were, say, 37, I might read them to you. But 162? That's crazy. Like the time my ex-girlfriend Norma accused me of flirting with the waitress just because I said, "1 pepperoni pizza, please." Trump's campaign is in hot water after a hacker, who suspiciously went by Robert, released a treasure trove of documents ranging from Trump's legal woes to internal campaign memos. The hacker's response to how they got the documents? "You don't want to know. Trust me, you really don't." That's the same thing I tell friends when they ask me what it was like to live with my ex-girlfriend Norma for a year. Trust me, you don't want to know. The campaign has quickly pointed fingers at Iran, suggesting they might be behind this breach. I think I know a guy named Robert who lives in Iran. I wonder if it was him. Apparently, the campaign think the Iranians are moonlighting as cyber criminals because they're so mad about Trump ordering Soleimani's assassination. Because clearly, Iran's top priority is hacking pizza orders and legal briefs. Meanwhile, the scope of the leak remains unclear. But one thing's for sure. It's a massive security blunder. And yes, it's the same campaign that once accused a waiter of being a spy just because Trump asked for extra cheese. Good thing Trump didn't order pepperoni. Norma would have thought Trump was flirting with the guy. More crazy. Remember that time Trump was almost killed in a helicopter crash? I don't. You don't. And Joe Biden definitely doesn't. That's because it never happened. And even if it had happened, Biden wouldn't remember it. So, in classic Trump fashion, the former president spun a tale so tall, it left everyone craning their necks in disbelief. Trump regaled reporters with a story about how he narrowly escaped death in a helicopter ride with Willie Brown, Kamala Harris's ex-boyfriend. Now, if you know anything about Trump's relationship with the truth, this probably set off your BS detector. And as it turns out, there wasn't just one problem with the story. There were more holes in it than Swiss cheese. First off, it wasn't Willie Brown on that chopper ride at all. It was Jerry Brown, the former governor of California. And let me tell you, Jerry and Willie, not often mistaken for one another. Secondly, the helicopter never had an emergency landing, and passengers weren't in danger. That's according to Governor Gavin Newsom, who was also on the flight and probably thinking, did I sleep through that whole ordeal? Am I forgetting things? Hey, maybe I could be the Democratic candidate for president in another 35 years. Jerry Brown, who left office in 2019, confirmed through a spokesman that there was no emergency, no life or death drama, and absolutely no mention of Kamala Harris. In fact, Gavin Newsom, who was on the flight with them, found the whole story hilarious, calling Trump's account complete BS while laughing out loud. Something we'd all be doing if we weren't so busy sighing. The whole fantastical story from Trump was sparked by a reporter's question about Harris's relationship with Willie Brown back in the 90s, where they dated while she was a prosecutor and he was the Speaker of the California Assembly. Of course, Trump claimed to know Willie Brown very well and then launched into his wildly inaccurate helicopter story. Trump went on to describe this harrowing experience, saying, "We thought maybe this was the end. We were in a helicopter, going to a certain location together, and there was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was a little concerned." Now, if this sounds like a bad action movie script, it's because it is. Completely made up. Naturally, the real Willie Brown, who was reached for comment while enjoying lunch in San Francisco, had a good laugh. At 90 years old, the guy knows how to spin a yarn, but even he couldn't top this one. He flat out denied ever being in a helicopter with Trump or having any near-death experiences with him. And as for his support for Harris, still rock solid. Rock solid at age 90? You go, Willie. President Biden, remember him? Don't worry, he doesn't either. Had his first sit-down with CBS News' Robert Costa since he decided to end his presidential campaign. "I'm 81, not dead." Biden joked about his age, despite earlier performances that suggested he might need a nap more than a debate stage. He said his decision to step aside was partly due to pressure from Democratic colleagues who feared his candidacy might be a real distraction. And by distraction, he meant, "You'd be interviewing me about Nancy Pelosi's thoughts on the weather instead of actual policy." He acknowledged that staying in the race would have meant a nail-biter election, but insisted, we must defeat Trump. On his health, Biden reassured everyone with the confidence of a man who survived more awkward moments than most people have had hot dinners. "I have no serious problem," he stated. "Sure, I had a bad day at the debate because I was sick, but look, it's not like I've got a permanent case of the sniffles." In a nod to the Biden-Harris ticket, he's clearly not worried about his political legacy, saying he had envisioned himself as a transition president. When discussing Trump's potential post-election antics, Biden wasn't exactly bubbling with optimism. He's concerned that if Trump loses, the fallout might not be pretty. "He means what he says," Biden warned. "All the stuff about, if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. He's serious." Man, that's scary. I hope Trump doesn't round up smart-ass podcasters and throw them in a gulag. That would suck for John, and Tommy. Did I ever mention how good-looking Trump is? Smart guy, handsome guy, very generous, with large hands. Well, I won't have to make up a story about RFK today. Joe Rogan, the guy who's basically the Oprah of podcasts for dudes, just threw his support behind our boy RFK Jr. Rogan says Kennedy's the only one that makes sense, which, in the land of politics, is like being the soberest person at a frat party. Rogan praised Kennedy for not attacking people, just ideas. You know, like the wild idea that vaccines might be secretly controlled by lizard people or something. Just kidding. Or am I? But here's where it gets juicy. Turns out, RFK Jr. once left a dead bear cub in Central Park and tried to make it look like a bicycle hit and run. Because nothing says presidential material like framing Schwinn for Ursine murder, right? Oh, and let's not forget the time Kennedy claimed a worm ate part of his brain. I mean, who hasn't had that happen? Am I right? It's practically a rite of passage. Despite all this, Kennedy's polling at a solid 5%, which, in the world of third-party candidates, is like being prom king of the chess club. It's not much, but hey, it's something. So there you have it, folks. RFK Jr., environmental lawyer, vaccine skeptic, bear prankster, and possible worm brain survivor. Is this the resume of our next president? Probably not. But in this circus we call American politics, stranger things have happened. Stay tuned for tomorrow's update, where we'll probably discover that Kennedy thinks the moon is made of cheese or that Bigfoot is running his campaign. Trump criticized Rogan. It will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring. MAGA 2024, Trump posted on Truth Social. Rogan later posted on Twitter. For the record, this isn't an endorsement. This is me saying that I like RFK Jr. as a person, and I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. Did he just tell RFK he only likes him as a friend? Portions of today's program were made with the help of AI. The whole thing is parody. Especially if your name is Norma and you think I'm joking about you. It's not you, it's a totally different Norma who isn't you, okay? Stop texting me. It's just jokes on a dopey podcast. Stop texting me. Is there a way to block someone from downloading your podcast?